Hey everyone, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to episode 16 of LabPadre's SpaceX and Starbase weekly updates. Now let's dig in. Early in the morning on the 17th, the white painted mystery box, a potential Starlink satellite loader, was moved into Tent 1. Working through the night at the launch site, workers continued to prepare the B7.1 tank for cryogenic load testing with the can crusher. In the morning, as part of SpaceX's public outreach program, a number of students toured Starbase on a school field trip. Over at the Cape, the Falcon 9 sent Starlink Group 4-19 soaring into the Florida skies. As the afternoon rolled around, workers on scissor lifts continued to prepare B7.1 for testing. Starbase's launch facilities have been inching closer to completion, and important finishing touches, including permanent facility gates, are being put into place. The chopsticks were raised again in preparation for its first operational booster lift. On the 18th, the truck type frequently used for Raptor engine deliveries made an appearance at the build site. A Raptor engine was later spotted being lifted and laid horizontally outside the high bay. One of SpaceX's self-propelled modular transporters relocated 15 10-ton counterweights as workers prepared to clear the way to decommission Buckner's LR-11000. Scaffolding was installed on the top of the orbital launch tower. The tower build plans call for a 10-foot lightning mast at the top. In the afternoon, the B7.1 test tank was lifted onto the can crusher. B7.1 is a structural validation test article for Super Heavy. With B7.1 moved into place, SpaceX's LR-11000 placed the top hat on the new test tank. The hat is designed to apply massive compression loads to the test tanks. An unexpected heavy venting event was observed that night from the orbital test tank farm. It's not quite clear why this took place. One of the few constants here at SpaceX is trying out new ideas, and new hardware often makes its way to the build site. Meanwhile, workers continued to install the new sliding gate at the D2 entrance to the launch site. At the can crusher, workers lowered down the large hold-down straps that are used to apply loads through the top hat. Launch site logistics necessitated the relocation of the booster Raptor lift stand to sit by the EDOME test tank. With structural steelwork completed on the megabay, Buckner's LR-11000 laid down its jib to be disassembled. Starbase launch site continues to move towards vehicle static fire and launch operations with each new delivery of methane fuel for Super Heavy. Continuing where crews left off the day before, Buckner's LR-11000 boom was laid down for disassembly. Once the crane was laid flat, workers proceeded in reverse order to its assembly. After unreeving the jib, workers dismantled it, followed by removal of the jib mast. With the jib mast fully removed, the main boom was set flat on cribbing to continue cable removal. Once that was done, the boom was disassembled to be loaded onto trucks. Back at the Cape, SpaceX's recovery vessel Doug towed a short fall of gravitas into Port Canaveral with booster B1060 on deck. With the can crusher hat's polypropylene ropes lowered into place, it was time to rig them to the crusher's hydraulics. Meanwhile, construction continued on the new climate-controlled building near the old BFC shed with the arrival of roofing. Returning to the orbital launch mount, workers installed the final sections of awning next to the quick disconnect hood. The awning, made of heavy steel plating, is designed to protect propellant lines, pressurization lines, and other supporting hardware from the fury of the launch. Starship 25's payload bay section proceeded to the next phase of construction with the addition of the Starlink PEZ dispenser device. The orbital launch site's heat exchanger for methane was seen venting as the propellant fuel lines were purged. Continued venting was seen from the orbital tank farm as hardware commissioning proceeds ahead of future wet dress rehearsals and static fire tests. After the chopsticks received a fresh coat of paint, several protective covers were removed from various launch site devices. Later on, additional pieces of the launch mount awning were installed next to the quick disconnect hood. Over at the build site, a Starship engine dome was moved to the scrapyard. Additional finishing touches at the launch site include the addition of a concrete cover to the protective berms around the propellant farm. Over at the new building next to the old BFC shed, workers finished up the insulation and the exterior cladding. The booster quick disconnect was subjected to one last test prior to Booster 7's delivery to the launch site. Meanwhile, the can crusher, which features tanks at the top, were wrapped in some sort of polymer. After some trouble on previous days, a new small-scale jib crane with shaw box hoist was installed on the launch mount. Late in the morning on June 23rd, at long last, after having engines, engine shielding, and all the requisite plumbing and avionics connections made, Booster 7 made its way out of the mega bay, transported on a pair of self-propelled modular transports. Once it reached the gate, and after a few minutes of multi-point turning to reach State Highway 4, Booster 7 began its hour-long journey to the launch site. After the booster arrived, it was soon moved over the chopsticks to be lifted onto the launch mount. Lift preparations began with removal of the quick disconnect plate that was used during transport. Late that night, the chopstick stabilizer arms were swung into place and locked into the booster's hardpoints. At 10:20 p.m., with everything securely in place, Booster 7 made history and was lifted into the sky. The hardware operated in a relatively abrupt start-stop fashion, with each lifting step throughout the night, as they gingerly moved the booster into position. A little over an hour after being raised, the booster began its descent as the arms performed minute adjustments to its position and angle. And not long after midnight, Booster 7 was finally clamped to the launch mount, leaving it secured and aligned. And there you have it, another SpaceX and Starbase weekly update brought to you by LabPadre. Make sure you subscribe and hit the alert bell for new video and live stream notifications. We'll see you next week, and thanks for watching. LabPadre out.